So the most troubling aspect of the weekend clearly comes from that game. It has been gravely debated. It was distressing to watch happen. Paddy McCartin with his 10th concussion through his league career. And it happened so innocuously that it sparked an instant level of concern. So I think the first thing I would like to say is that the care for the player initially. So all that matters as a starting point is his welfare and how he is over the short period of time. And then it'll step through a couple of layers. We all feel like we have a stake in this debate at the moment as an industry, but primarily it's Paddy, it's his loved ones and his family. And then it's the Swans, and I do think they have a coach who represents the best pastoral care in the game of John Longmire. There's the medical staff who have a young man's welfare very specifically in their care. And then there's the game. And that part of it is going to have to come to a reckoning, I think. 15 years ago, players used to get sent back out on the field under the standard medical advice at the time. In 15 years' time, I have no doubt there'll be a mandated threshold around the number of career concussions any athlete can have in a contact sport. We're not there yet. We're in the middle ground, and I think this case study will play a really big role in where we end up in a generation's time.
It's a really sad situation that I think places all of those parties that you were talking about, the AFL, the medicos, Paddy and his family in particular, the Swans, everyone involved, it puts them in a really tough situation. So we have an ongoing litigation process. There's continuing investigation and analysis of concussion results and what may or may not be down the track. So the question I would ask you, Jared, is what's the right course of action as we head from here? Where do we go?
So there are a few steps, I think. The first rests with Paddy and Sydney and their medical experts who assessed his return to footy after, 3.5 years. So he makes it back. There's a concussion last year, there's a concussion this year. So once all of that is worked through, and I think we should respect, this is not going to be a 12-day process. No. We should respect how long that goes. But then there will need to be a level of independent oversight. And it's not, the one thing I won't have in this debate is the suggestion that, well, Paddy should sign a waiver. No. We can't, as an industry, abdicate responsibility. Those who run the game, those who stage the game, those who watch and enjoy the game, we can't abdicate our responsibility and get Paddy to sign his life away in the future. I think that's a preposterous idea to be put forward. But there will need to be, I think, at the end of, once Paddy submits him, if he chooses to submit himself to play and he gets the surety that he's looking for, there will need to be an independent level of industry scrutiny over that. And we have seen this before. Daniel Venable's career was brought to a close by that sort of panel. I think that we will have to make that cool, calm, detached assessment should he present himself back to play.
That independent medical panel is easier said than done. That's the problem I have. Because you go to see any medical specialist about any particular injury you might have, you can get differing opinions. They all have the welfare of the person at heart. And they all want the very best, but some of them have different philosophies, different teachings behind them that can result in different findings. So who do we listen to at the end of the day? If we get some saying you can do this, others saying you can't do that, how do we sit there and say, well, this is the independent body that overrules everybody?
Yeah, well, I don't know the how, but I do know that that's what has to happen.
Yeah.
And it will happen in future. This will be an international case study. This is what it looks like in a contact sport, to have a man suffer his 10th concussion in full view and the actions that come in the aftermath. So it'll have ramifications for a long time. Principally, it's what happens to Paddy, because what we don't know is in 20 years' time, what does all this mean for his life? So the abundance of caution, and I do think care that's associated with this is appropriate for the moment in time where we find ourselves.
And it's a case that looks so much more dramatic and tragic because it wasn't a sickening clash.
No.
It was a stumble where you face plant into the ground, not even in a particularly aggressive fashion. And all of a sudden you see the effect and the after state of what happened. So it's disturbing for those people watching. I think that's why we're always going to get such outcry.
Simpler, but with big ramifications on the injury front for Richmond.
Oh.
So it looked for a while after they lost to the Bulldogs that their main concern was how the tribunal would hold their fate in their hands in the coming days with Tom Lynch, and then we learned about the Lynch broken foot, and he's going to miss a couple of months. And then today, Toby Nankervis. We get our first look here at the syndesmosis injury, which, as we know, that this is a couple of months as well. So surgery for the co-captain and the ruckman, and surgery for the key forward at a time where they're 6 points from 16.
Find two more important players in their makeup, Jared, as far as their ability to progress in 2023 is concerned. As you said, that power forward that directs so much of the traffic coming inside 50. And then Curvis has become, let's not underestimate how good a leader he's become, a leader of men down at Richmond. He's a terrific ruckman, but he's also become an inspirational leader for them. So this sets them back a lot, and they're not playing the sort of football that I thought they might be at this stage of the season. And I'm now starting to second guess how highly I rated them heading into the season. I don't know if you are, but I'm a little concerned about the way they're playing.
So they were grossly undermanned when they fronted up to Collingwood, and they were gallant, and now they're going to front up to Sydney and Melbourne with these two. So through not much fault of their own, they mightn't get a decent crack at the first part of the season, and they'll be chasing all the way through. But I'm a little bit with you. They don't look like a team about to reprise the great deeds of those Richmond teams.
Yeah, which means I'm disappointed that they've got these injuries, because I would rather see them at full strength so I can judge exactly how they're going and not have that as a lingering excuse on the side of, well, maybe if they had A, B, C, D and E. You know, they had a couple of handy players come back into the mix in Martin and Hopper on the weekend, and for a quarter they showed us what they're capable of doing. The run and carry and the all-out attack was unstoppable. 8 goals to 2 in the second team. You think, oh, hang on, Richmond's back. The real Richmond's turned up. But then the Bulldogs found a way to lift in the second half and got the job done. So I'm still unsure about the Tigers.
Yeah,